As I turned the key and pushed open the heavy, creaking door of the storage unit, I was expecting to find nothing more than a dusty assortment of old belongings. It was a task I had inherited after the passing of my elderly relative, whose possessions had been left untouched for years. I aimed to clear out the unit and put the space to good use, but what I uncovered inside was far beyond anything I had anticipated. The unit was cloaked in darkness, save for a single flickering light bulb hanging from the ceiling. The dim illumination revealed rows of shelves, each burdened with boxes cloaked in thick layers of dust and cobwebs. The air was heavy with the smell of mildew, a pungent reminder of the years of neglect. I could barely make out the silhouettes of various items: tarnished mirrors, old dolls with cracked porcelain faces, and faded photographs. Each object seemed to exude an unsettling aura, as if they were all hiding secrets from the past. I began my task of sorting through the clutter, pushing aside boxes and carefully examining the contents. There were no immediate signs of anything unusual, but I couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. That night, as I prepared for bed, I heard faint, unsettling noises coming from the storage unit, soft rustling and the occasional clink of metal. I brushed them off as the sounds of old items settling into place. But the next night, the noises became louder and more distinct. Curiosity and concern drove me to investigate further. I grabbed a flashlight and made my way back to the storage unit. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing a disarray of objects and casting eerie shadows on the walls. As I ventured deeper into the unit, the atmosphere seemed to shift. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and the old doll's eyes appeared to follow my every move. The rustling noise grew more intense, more frantic. A particularly unnerving doll, with a cracked face and a tattered dress, began to move on its own. Its eyes locked onto mine, and a chilling whisper filled the air, as if the doll was trying to communicate something from beyond. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away, but the door suddenly slammed shut behind me, trapping me inside. Panic surged through me as I fumbled in the darkness. The shelves seemed to come alive, and the old photographs fluttered as if stirred by an unseen wind. The mirrors, once dusty and dull, now reflected distorted and menacing faces. The sense of being watched grew overwhelming, and I could hear faint, disembodied voices speaking in hushed tones. They seemed to recount tales of sorrow, anger, and loss. Desperate to escape, I frantically searched for an exit, but the unit had become a labyrinth of terror. The items I had once considered mundane were now animated by a malevolent force. The dolls, mirrors, and photographs seemed to merge into a single, terrifying presence that seemed to close in around me. The unit's dim light flickered erratically, casting grotesque shadows that twisted and writhed on the walls. Finally, in a burst of adrenaline-fueled determination, I managed to pry open the door and escape. I slammed it shut behind me, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The storage unit remained locked, and I vowed never to return. The experience left me profoundly shaken, and the whispers and clinks that haunted my nightmares were a constant reminder of the night when the forgotten objects came to life and revealed their dark secrets. In the weeks that followed, I tried to put the ordeal behind me, but an unsettling sense of dread lingered. It felt as if something from that night had followed me, and that eerie sounds seemed to echo in my daily life. One particularly distressing night, I was jolted awake by a series of loud, insistent bangs coming from the direction of the storage unit. The noises were so intense, they seemed to reverberate through the walls of my home. Driven by a mixture of fear and determination, I resolved to confront whatever was tormenting me. I returned to the storage unit, armed with a powerful flashlight and a steely resolve. As I opened the door, the familiar oppressive darkness enveloped me. The unit seemed even more sinister than before, with shadows that seemed to rise and twist in the dim light. As I ventured further in, the darkness felt almost tangible, pulling at me with an unseen force. The objects, now arranged in a macabre display, appeared almost sentient. The dolls were arranged in a grotesque circle, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. The mirrors were covered in shifting, enigmatic patterns, and the photographs seemed to come alive, their faces contorted in silent screams. In the center of the unit stood an old, ornate chest that had always been there, but I had never paid much attention to it. My hands shook as I opened the heavy lid. Inside, I found a collection of peculiar items, strange amulets, faded journals, and ancient-looking scrolls. One journal, in particular, caught my eye. It was leather-bound, with a lock inscribed with unfamiliar symbols. I pried open the lock and began to read. The journal detailed a series of dark rituals and summoning spells. The previous owner had been deeply involved in occult practices, attempting to bind spirits to various objects. The entries described how these spirits were meant to be controlled. But as I read further, it became clear that something had gone terribly wrong. The spirits were no longer contained, but had instead merged into a malevolent force that now haunted the unit. A cold, unnatural breeze swept through the unit, and the temperature dropped sharply. Shadows began to twist and writhe, forming grotesque shapes that reached out towards me. The dolls and mirrors were fully animated, their malevolent presence growing stronger with every passing moment. The voices I had heard before became clear, chanting in an ancient, threatening language that sent chills down my spine. Realizing the urgency of the situation, I gathered the cursed artifacts and the journal, determined to destroy them and end the horror once and for all. The unit's lights flickered wildly, casting eerie, distorted shadows that seemed to close in around me. The sense of impending doom was almost palpable. In a final, desperate act, I took the artifacts outside and set them ablaze in a controlled fire. The flames roared and danced, consuming the cursed objects. The fire crackled with a sinister energy, and the ground seemed to tremble. A final, chilling wail echoed through the night as the last of the artifacts was reduced to ash. The following morning, the storage unit was eerily quiet. I inspected the area, finding only the remnants of the fire still smoldering. There were no signs of the malevolent forces that had tormented me. The unit itself was unchanged, but the sense of dread that had plagued me seemed to have lifted. Although the immediate danger had passed, the experience left an indelible mark on me. The storage unit remains locked and untouched, a haunting reminder of that night. I have moved on, but the memories of the terror I faced linger. The shadows and whispers that once haunted me have faded, but I am forever aware of the thin veil between the ordinary and the extraordinary, and the darkness that can lie hidden in the most unsuspecting places.